Matthias from Ludo Esports, and we're here with Martin the Masseur Newhill, and he's a sports massage therapist.
That's right.
Yeah, from Malvern.
Malvern, that's correct. Yeah, well done.
Yeah, okay. So we've been having a long discussion about the different health aspects to esports, and it's been very interesting to have this dialogue with you, and you agreed to answer a couple of questions more in detail and to share this to our different viewers and
Absolutely.
to our community. So welcome here.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, we're here at EIZO Open in Stockholm and Globe Arena, and my first question would be that do you think that esports is a physical activity?
That is a very good question. If you were to compare esports to other classical sports, then it could be possibly seen that it is not the most active of sports when you look at the true definition of what a sport is. But it does fulfill a lot of requirements of that definition. It's competitive,
Yeah.
it is physical, maybe not totally body physical, like a true athlete as such,
Yeah.
but you can still apply a lot of the traditional training methods. Nutrition is another thing they can look at. All these things can be adapted to what these people do, what these gamers do, which would make them as much an athlete as a dart player or a Formula One driver.
Yeah.
We still look at those as being sports, but there seems to be, we're living in a time where the definition of sport perhaps has to change a little bit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we're talking about people that are actually putting a lot of effort to making their expertise to bleeding edge, and to be very competitive to other players and other athletes that are trying to hone their skills.
The skills, for sure. These people are spending perhaps more time than your classic sports people in training. And when you're spending between 8 and 12 hours a day, that is a full-on job. It's a lot of exertion for the body. Maybe, again, as I've just said, maybe not in a total body experience, but for your hands to be working here, they do not just appear working here. The body has to put them there.
Yeah.
So it can be seen as a total body effect regarding a sport.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about having other athletes using different parts of the body and maybe using computers and computer games as a relaxation.
Absolutely.
And then where they could rest their muscles and the rest of the body and put focus to their brain and have these other muscles in work.
Yeah.
And you made a very good example on that.
Yeah, regarding, I'm normally involved in downhill mountain biking, so this is with guys who are seen as being a little bit crazy. They're throwing themselves down mountains of speeds up to 70, 80 km/h, and I come from that environment where they do, to relax, play computer games. So what I'm trying to do is to come here and explain to these guys that perhaps you could adopt a little bit of a more physical activity alongside your gaming that can make you a better player.
Because it's all together.
It's all connected. It's all connected. When people say to me, "What are you doing on these players? Where are you working these gamers, should I say? Where are you working on them?" And the automatic areas are looking at the hands and the arms. Okay, but definitely regarding posture, slouching, the neck. One thing I've really noticed, they've got a lot of issues regarding that. As a worker if you're at work between 8 hours a day on a work shift, you will be generally sat in that same position doing the very same thing as these guys are doing. There's very little difference. But the benefits, most definitely from the feedback I am getting, APMs are up.
And we're talking about actions per minute. The measurement on how many different actions you can do per minute in a game, right?
Yeah, and if you can get your actions per minute higher, that will actually, your reactions will, and a little bit quicker. I am not guaranteeing that will give you the strategy
you
win.
still need a good type of strategies in your...
Absolutely, you've still got to be really up there. But it does help. The feedback I had from Dreamhack Winter and from the assembly recently in Helsinki, the emails I am getting in are saying, yes, you know, I've checked my APMs, they are up by 5%, 10%.
Because they feel more enlightened, more fresh and reaction-wise, because they keep the rest of the body in shape?
Absolutely. If you're looking at, for example, most other sports, then the movement of the body is greater, for sure. But when you are moving your body in very small movements, but on a high ratio, that provides a lot of problems regarding RSI, repetitive strain injury.
Okay.
So when you're looking at all this tissue moving a couple of millimeters, but very quickly, it makes problems. You have lactic acid buildup in the arms, for example, and the tissue starts to physically stick together.
Oh.
Okay? Just like it would do, as I've mentioned before, whether it be GP riders on motorbikes, ex-fighters doing somersaults on bikes, they always get arm pumped because all they are doing are very small movements. And what my job is to come in, the actual definition of my job is the functional separation of muscular tissue. That is what sports therapy, sports massage therapy is. And I want to separate this tissue so it works more efficiently, taking less effort, and can react quicker.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. It's kind of leading to the second question, which is actually, many people have, they have it harder to see esports as a real sport. And to acknowledge the athlete, they somehow need to accept and see how the athlete are doing something that could relate to a sport.
Yeah.
So my question would be: do you see is esport a real sport? How would...
Yeah. Well, I come from a completely different background. So when I came into this environment, I had the same question. And James Toogood, who actually has looked at player welfare being a big issue from when he played before, and he has the insight to look ahead and think, you know, is there a benefit? He sent me an email, and within this email was a Korean player, and when I saw his hands moving so quickly, immediately, without even seeing the rest of the clip, I'm emailing him saying, yes, I can help these guys as much as I help anybody else. So from that aspect, when I came in, I was a little bit shocked at the environment. Being in the darkness is a little bit strange. And obviously there are some issues to all that. If you spend 8-12 hours a day in this environment, then we do need that stuff outside called sunlight.
Yes, we do.
You know, we need it to feed our eyes, to feed our skin for vitamin D, etc. So that there are health issues, but no more health issues than there are involved with a typical sports player. If you look at professionals who have played sport for a number of years, when they finish sport, they will pay a consequence physically from doing that sport. If they are football players, they will have bad backs, injuries they have to recover from. Just like every other sport, when you have a racing driver sat in his car and he is not moving at all. The car may be travelling at 180 miles an hour, but he is moving very, very small movements. But these are still classed as sports. So when I come into this now and I look at the actual effort, time, skill, ability, competitiveness, these are all words that if you look at the definition of sport, they are all in there. So they tick all the boxes for it being a sport as much as anything else does.
That's really good. And there's a lot of types of definitions of sports from different types of international organizations. But as you're saying, if you take a majority of all these keywords and all these key definitions, it will still be something you can apply to esports and the competitive gamers that are trying to show the world that they are number one when it comes
and the best.
to Yeah, and the
best at what they do.
Yeah, best at what they do.
Absolutely. If you were, for example, to look at take Red Bull, for example, who have promoted extreme sports. If you go back in time when the person invented the skateboard, he did not invent this thing to be used to come off jumps in a half pipe, to be spinning around, to be travelling 30, 40 metres in the air. And yet extreme sports at this moment in time is probably as popular, maybe more popular than a lot of classical active sports. So it is changing, we are all changing. You are looking at Olympic Games now where things are included that were previously extreme.
Yeah. I was thinking about judo, for example. It's been very fascinating to see that it's actually an Olympic game now.
Absolutely. BMX riding, it's been in the last 2 Olympic Games. And if you look at something, for example, in Winter Games, they have brought in snowboarding.
They have
Snow four-cross, which is taken from another sport where you have 4 people competing, going down. That is so popular now in the Olympic Winter Extreme Games. They are looking at poaching it for the actual proper Winter Olympic Games. And perhaps this comes down to whether it be revenue or people watching it, the numbers.
Or popularity, as you just said.
Popularity, you know.
I mean, there's a lot of things that affects the popularity also. I mean, the e-sport itself is very affected of the computer game industry, which is passing all other types of industries when it comes to revenues. I mean, internationally. And these are companies and people making a lot of money circle around in this business. And I mean, and e-sport becomes then the part where people are actively seeing and getting related to these games. So these games and the development of these games and the companies that have an interest of putting up popularity towards these games, and the gamers and the e-sports and elite in itself, they are very much helping each other out in marketing and pushing popularity.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we all know we are living in a time at this moment for the last few years of a recession. This sport is bucking the trend. The recession is, as we know, it's the recession going down. This is going up.
Yeah.
And it's one of the very few businesses or sports that is actually doing that, and in ever increasing popularity. And there must be something in it, because you're talking to a guy who's 48 years of age, whose last game that he played was probably Pac-Man. And yet I am starting to have an interest in this when you realise it exceeds a game. You know, I've just been watching StarCraft last night with 3 guys explaining to me what is going on.
Yeah.
And I just do not understand how quickly and efficiently these people are using a computer. I think I can move my hands pretty quickly in my job, you know. This is nothing compared to these people out here. And I won't say just guys, there's also girls out there.
Yeah, there is, and we should really encourage them.
Absolutely, they are playing very well at the same standard. So when you're looking at an equality thing going on, it's there. They just have to practice as much as the lads practice, and I think we'll be seeing more and more girls coming into the sport. As time progresses, you know, we're looking at an industry that just doesn't involve the computer side itself. It involves sports therapists who are now coming in and being able to help these people like we do with any other athlete.
Yeah.
So are they athletes? Well, they are to me.
Yeah, and
their bodies are no different. They are. I can bring the same benefits to them. It has the same detrimental effects to them as sports do as well. So I think, you know, when it comes to it, people should be a little bit more open-minded. If your son or your daughter is busy playing these games and they're in their room for hour upon hour, perhaps you might want to sit down and ask them what is going on a little bit.
Yeah.
They can explain a little bit more to you, perhaps. And the one thing I realised about the popularity of games is that when you are younger, your brain is like a computer anyway.
Yeah.
It absorbs all information.
Yeah.
So
and it's really it evolves yourself, and it
absolutely, yeah. I mean, these guys you're looking at, as I've mentioned before in previous interviews, regarding economics, regarding money, fiscal systems. It's not just about Call of Duty shooting people or going around stealing cars in a city.
No,
I won't mention a certain game,
but you need to see an economical system.
Absolutely.
Where you will have a competitor.
Yeah, I've had many jobs before I found this wonderful job I do now. One of which I'm completely qualified in business studies, and I can apply the things I have learned way back in business studies to what these people are doing out here normally, not even grasping it and connecting it to other types of business areas. No, not at all. No. But I think you can take many of these people, put them into positions regarding budgets and all these types of things for cities, for countries.
Yep.
They would do a pretty good job.
I think so too.
Most definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple of people that are still trying to see and to point out the different qualities this new generation actually is bringing along with them, and still needing someone to tell them that this is good, but let's try it in this area.
That's right.
And this is the whole gamification dialogue about how can you apply game logics and the game thinking in other types of areas. And I think you should maybe start thinking about the people actually, what they are physically and mentally evolving. Absolutely. Because of this.
Yeah, there are some big changes. I mean, again, when people my age, who are generally the parents of these players back here, it is very strange for us. It's very new for us. But I'm pretty sure if we were the age of their children, there's a very good chance that we will be playing these games as well. So let's be a little bit honest about this. When the games first came out, I was there playing Super Mario. It was the best game out at the time, and I was playing it. And if I could perhaps have a bit more time in my life, I'm pretty sure that I'd find myself clicking on StarCraft and going, actually, I quite like this.
And that is really interesting, because we have these generation, well, the first the ones born on the 80s, they are becoming parents now. These people in my age, the ones that are just about to get a family and stuff, and they have a different view on how their kids are actually taking in knowledge and skills and seeing the world. And I mean, we have a very good example in our own organization of Audio Esports. We have this great mother and this great guy, 12-year-old, and he's a StarCraft player. He's
I heard this.
So we're talking about this boy that is. He has the encouragement of finding himself and seeing the world in a way where he can balance what is good and what is bad, and he get encouraged to finding himself in this new technological era. Yeah,
and for sure, I'm pretty sure that as he's going through his education, he will be applying in his education some of the things that he has learned from playing these games.
Yes, even his mother are telling me that he is actually much better at English because of the game.
There's a classic example.
And it's such a classic example.
Absolutely.
Everyone that thinks that, this guy is sitting in a dark room with himself. No, he's actually interacting with hundreds of people, and this is in obviously many types of languages. Yeah,
for sure. But the common language being the game.
Yeah.
And when you're looking for example, at issues where they have to buy a certain number of credits to be able to purchase a certain machine to do a certain job in a certain situation. These are calculations that are being done in seconds, milliseconds even. Yeah. And they will be using these in their future. I think the young lad that we're talking about is very fortunate to have parents who are more open-minded.
Open-minded, that's what we're talking about.
Absolutely. I mean, when we were living in a society where they say no children are going outside. No children or less children are doing exercise. Well, I assure you, in my one half of mountain biking, they are very, very active. It's just that when it comes to esports, for example, I was recently in South Africa and my riders were saying to me, "So, have you been busy over the winter?" And I said, yeah. "Where have you been?" "Oh, I work on esports gamers now." And they look at me as, "Gamers?" Yeah. What, people make a living travelling the world playing games? Yeah, of course. Not even they know.
No.
And they play the actual games themselves, but they do not know that all exists.
Yeah, but they do it in another way.
Absolutely.
So I had two questions that we already gone through. It was actually the health issues. If you see some type of effect that is created by esports, or is there much more to it?
Yeah, I mean, is there a difference between someone sat at a computer in esports playing games professionally or as an amateur? Is there any difference between them or the many millions of people who go to work every day? They sit down, they put a computer on, and they are there for 8 hours. There's very, very little difference. But you don't hear people saying, "Oh, you can't go to work and use a computer for that amount of time.
No.
That isn't the right thing to do. It's not healthy. It's not this. It's not that." It's the future. It's the present. It is what is happening. I do try and persuade them, in between bouts of playing, to go outside, to get some fresh air.
But this is the balance. This is the balance, and
yes.
it's normal.
Absolutely.
This is a young sport as well, and it needs help with a lot of structure and advice as an athlete.
Absolutely. And when I'm talking to these people, and I say, go outside, do something, have a little bit of activity. I'm in the future maybe looking at doing something revolving having stationary bikes at events, where people can actually make the body as fatigued as the mind is. So then, you have better sleeping patterns. Because when you've been playing some of these games, how these guys sleep afterwards, I'm very surprised. They must be awake for a couple of hours at least to be able to wind down. But if they can involve some kind of physical activity, that will make them better as a player. Because as a person, as a being, they will be feeling better, and the body will be working more efficiently.
Yeah, like a competitive car driver, or they need to keep healthy.
Yes,
they need to stay fit.
Yes,
to drive that car.
Yeah. Again, I refer back to my mountain biking. When I first got involved, it was cool. Just as I got involved, it started to change to being professional. And the people who started to take on my services, and other people like myself, for example, and looking at other little aspects to tweak their performance. Once one guy does it and he wins, someone sees him doing that, it's an infectious thing. And already, I know that these guys are intelligent because they're picking up my services and people like me straight away. It's not taking years to get involved.
They need that 0.0009% to win.
Exactly, yeah, because that is the difference. It is happening. The games I'm looking at, people are getting excited and shouting. I do not know quite what's going on, and then it's over.
And I mean, a lot of Swedish gamers and European esporters are very much comparing themselves, for example, to other countries like South Korea, and it's something that I find is very interesting because of what I see South Korea, for example, being too different, is that they have a very, very cultural, strong belief in discipline. So, I mean, when it comes to discipline, you will not just ignore the little percentage of advantage you can get.
That's right.
By thinking of all the little details, like, okay, I need to keep healthy, I need to eat, I need to sleep, I need to keep this in a logical manner to be able to compete in a tournament and becoming actual best with milliseconds.
Exactly. And if you're looking at any other sport, if they can find the slightest advantage, they will accept that readily with both open hands. They will run with it, no pun intended, and to get their better results. And these guys and girls are exactly the same. They're realising the benefits that they can receive from receiving treatment, and they're going, well, of course, if that makes me faster, fantastic. I just hope that the player that I am playing hasn't seen Martin, and I have the advantage, not both of us.
So we're running out of time right now, and to wrap this up in one sentence, could you say, could you answer, how do you reckon people not familiar with esport culture should look at esports?
Okay.
Or as short as possible.
As short as possible. 4 words. With an open mind.
Yes.
That's 4 words.
That's 4 words.
And I think that's the most important thing. Is to look at it and think, you know, it may be just a phase that my child is going through, okay? If it goes further, he might go on and do something more involved with computer programming, not just playing the games. You could be a tester for companies. There's many other jobs and occupations that are involved within this industry that could come from a 12-year-old beginning to play these games. Okay, he is looking to his heroes and he would love to be like them.
Yeah.
But maybe he doesn't get that high. But he will still be involved in the game with hospitality, with interviewing, with filming, for example. There's a big industry.
And nice organizations like ourselves that are trying to encourage young people to, strike ambition.
You're very good. You're looking at all issues, not just one issue. You're looking at the positive and the negative, if there are negatives, because there are negatives with every sport. This has got a healthy future, and one of which I hope to be part of, and I look forward to it, very much so.
Martin, thank you for your time. This means a lot to us. It means a lot to the culture and everybody actually trying to get involved with esports, to hear this from a professional view and your point of view.
Hey, it's my pleasure. It's great to meet you. Thanks so much for your time. Thank you.